All right, welcome back, everybody. We've got a Big Ten battle brewing tonight, Maryland versus Nebraska. We've got a ton of expert opinions and predictions to unpack, so let's dive in and see what we can make sense of it all.
Yeah, and what really jumps out is Nebraska's actually favored in this one, which is interesting because Maryland has kind of had their number historically, but both these teams have had some really interesting ups and downs this season. So there's a lot to break down here.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so first things first, tip-off is 8:30 p.m. Eastern at Pinnacle Bank Arena in Lincoln. You can catch it on BTN. The odds makers have Nebraska as a slight favor, giving 1.5 points, with the over-under set at 147. But here's what I'm really curious about. Nebraska, they had that brutal six-game losing streak back in January. Now, all of a sudden, they're on a four-game win streak, and they've taken down some ranked opponents during that run. I mean, Illinois, Oregon. How do you explain a turnaround like that?
Yeah, everyone's trying to figure that out, and it's not like a coaching change or some sudden roster move. A lot of it seems to be tied to Brace Williams, their fifth-year guard. I mean, the guy has just been on fire. 4 straight games with 20-plus points. In fact, he just won AP National Player of the Week after dropping 55 points combined against Illinois and Oregon. Just incredible.
Wow, so one player just catches fire and it lifts the whole team. I mean, talk about inspiring. Makes you wonder if he can keep that momentum going against Maryland.
Yeah, that's the big question. And don't forget, Maryland's no slouch. They've won 5 of their last 6. Their only loss was a close one to Ohio State, and then they bounced back strong against Rutgers.
Oh yeah, and I was looking at the box score for that Raptors game. Their freshman center, Derek Queen, had a monster game. 29 points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists. I mean, is he the key to a Maryland victory?
He's a huge factor for sure, but you also got to look at the history here. Maryland's won 7 of the last 8 against Nebraska.
So we got a hot streak versus historical dominance. This is getting good. But there's another layer to this, right? I keep seeing all this talk about a clash of styles.
Yeah, that's a great point. Maryland is very much a post-heavy team. You know, they rely on their big men like Queen and Julian Reese to dominate the paint. It's a very, physical, inside-out game. Nebraska, on the other hand, they run this dribble handoff offense. It's all about quick passes, screens, trying to get Brees Williams open for a shot. So their success hinges on, his shot-making ability.
So it's almost like a heavyweight boxer going up against a nimble fencer. Two completely different approaches. How do you even begin to predict which style will come out on top?
Well, you got to factor in things like location, for example. Maryland, as good as they are, have a bit of an Achilles heel. They're ranked 353rd nationally in away from home performance. They struggle on the road.
Yikes. That's not a stat you want to see if you're a Terrapins fan.
Nope. And then you look at Nebraska, they've been almost unbeatable at home. 18 wins out of their last 20 game at Pinnacle Bank Arena.
So home court advantage could be huge in this one. All right, let's talk predictions. What are the experts saying?
Well, it's kind of split, surprisingly. Some are leaning towards Nebraska, because of that home court advantage and, Williams playing so well. Others are saying, no, Maryland's overall talent, the historical dominance, that'll be the deciding factor.
It sounds like we've got a real nail biter on our hands. So given everything we've discussed, what's your gut feeling? Who you got winning this one?
If I had to put money on it, I'd probably go with Nebraska. I can't ignore that home court advantage, and I think Williams is going to stay hot.
Wow, calling the upset. I like it. But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what about the over-under? You think this one's going to be a high-scoring affair?
I'm actually leaning towards the under. Both teams play pretty solid defense, and their first head-to-head this season went under.
Good point. All right, so a Nebraska win, but a low-scoring game. Sounds like it could be a really tense, exciting matchup. But beyond just the outcome, I think this game highlights something really interesting about college basketball this year.
I think so, too. There's this level of, unpredictability this year that we haven't seen in a while. Teams that were supposed to be dominant are struggling. Underdogs are pulling off upsets left and right. It's wild.
Yeah, I mean, look at Nebraska, right? And even Maryland, who, are a very good team. They've had some head-scratching losses. Makes you wonder, is this unpredictability a good thing for the sport?
That's a great question. It's a double-edged sword, really. I mean, on the one hand, it makes every game more exciting. You never know who's going to win. It keeps the fans on the edge of their seats. Makes it harder for analysts like us to predict things, too, which is kind of fun.
Absolutely. But on the other hand, if upsets happen too often, it almost feels like the regular season loses some of its meaning. If anyone can beat anyone on any given night, then what's the point of, rankings and seedings?
Yeah, there's that. It does make it harder to sort of figure out who the truly elite teams are if upsets become the norm.
It's a complex issue, no easy answers. So I guess I'll throw this out to you. Do you think this unpredictability ultimately enhances or detracts from the overall appeal of college basketball?
I think it enhances it. I mean, that's what makes it so captivating. You tune in because you genuinely don't know what's going to happen.
I like that. It's about embracing the chaos, right? Just enjoying the ride. All right, so everyone listening, as you watch Maryland and Nebraska battle it out tonight, keep that in mind. You're not just watching a game, you're witnessing this unpredictable beauty of college basketball in all its glory.
And who knows, maybe we'll see another upset. All right, so we've kind of set the stage, talked about the team stories, their styles. Now let's zoom in a little bit on some of the players that could really swing this game one way or the other.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about Brisa Williams, Nebraska's star guard, but who else should we be watching for on the Cornhusker side?
Well, definitely keep an eye on Juwan Derry, their senior forward, averaging about 13 points, 5 rebounds a game. Just a really solid presence alongside Williams.
Okay, and what about Keisei Tominaga? He was kind of a scoring machine for them last season, putting up over 15 points a game. Think he can recapture that magic against Maryland?
I mean, it's possible. He's definitely capable. And don't forget about Rink Mast. He's not a flashy scorer or anything, but he's a fantastic passer. That assist to turnover ratio, it's really crucial for keeping their offense flowing.
So it sounds like Nebraska's got a nice mix of scoring threats and playmakers. What about Maryland? Besides Dairy Queen, who are the Terrapins to watch?
Well, Julian Reese, their other big man down low, he's a beast on the boards, averaging almost 9 rebounds a game, and he can put up points when he gets going.
Right, Reese is a big part of that post-heavy offense they run. And then there's Jameer Young, a high-scoring guard, averaged over 20 points a game last season. Do you think he can have a big night against Nebraska's defense?
That's a good question. It'll be interesting to see. And we can't forget about Jacoby Gillespie, really dynamic point guard, great at distributing the ball. And he just hit a pretty major milestone, over 1,000 career points.
Wow, 1,000 points. That's impressive. So both teams have a lot of individual talent on the court, but numbers only tell part of the story, right? What about those less tangible factors that can influence a game?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, things like momentum, team chemistry, the energy of the crowd, all that stuff. It can be just as important as individual stats, for sure.
For sure. And in this particular matchup, I think Nebraska's home court advantage is going to be massive. I mean, we've talked about how tough they are to beat at Pinnacle Bank Arena, and you know that crowd is going to be loud and fired up for this one.
Yeah, no doubt. That home crowd, it can really be like a sixth man out there, giving the home team a boost and putting pressure on the visitors.
Yeah, it's like this wave of energy that can either lift a team up or make the opposing players feel the heat. Maryland is definitely going to need to stay focused and block out that noise if they want to pull off the win.
Definitely. They'll need to rely on that veteran experience to handle the pressure.
Okay, so we've covered the stats, the players, even those intangible factors. Time to put it all together. What's your final prediction for this game and maybe more importantly for our listeners, what's their best bet?
All right, well, I'm sticking with my gut feeling. I'm going with Nebraska to win and cover the spread. That home court advantage is just too much to ignore. And I think Brees Williams is going to keep that hot streak going.
So you're calling the upset. Love it. What about the over-under? Still feeling the under?
Yeah, I'm still leaning that way. I think both teams have solid defenses. I think points are going to be hard to come by in this one. Plus, like we said, their first matchup this season was a pretty low-scoring affair.
That's a great point. So a Nebraska victory, but a low final score. Sounds like it could be a real tense, exciting game. So we were just talking about how unpredictable college basketball has been this year. And this Maryland-Nebraska game, it really feels like a perfect example of that, doesn't it?
Totally. I mean, Nebraska defying expectations with these recent wins, Maryland showing some vulnerability on the road. It just reminds you that even with all the analysis, all the historical data, anything can happen.
It really is those unexpected twists and turns that keep things exciting. It's not just about the final score, it's those moments of brilliance, the gutsy comebacks, that thrill of not knowing what's going to happen next.
Yeah, and it's not just the teams, it's the individual players too. These are student athletes pouring their heart into every possession. You see that raw emotion, the determination, the joy of competing at that level. It's pretty inspiring.
It's easy to get caught up in the stats, the strategies, but at the end of the day, it's that human element that makes college basketball so compelling.
Yeah, and I think that's something important for everyone listening to keep in mind. As you watch this game tonight, you're not just watching a competition. You're watching the culmination of years of hard work, dedication, passion.
It's a reminder that upsets happen, underdogs can rise, and even when the odds are stacked against you, there's always a chance to make history.
Absolutely. So don't just watch the scoreboard. Watch the players, the coaches, the fans. Soak in that atmosphere and appreciate the unpredictable beauty of this sport.
Well said. And hey, maybe tonight will be another chapter in the story of college basketball's wild and unpredictable season.
Enjoy the game, everyone.
And that's a wrap for our deep dive into this Maryland-Nebraska matchup. We hope you're feeling informed, ready for some Big Ten action. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and never underestimate the power of a good upset.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.